I am joined by my friend Anne. Hello, Anne.
Hello, it is great to be with you.
We're in a new year. 2026 is upon us. Christmas, that's gone. And of course, now we can look forward to Christmas. But how is it that Christmas always catches up and we think, it's Christmas again? Like it's the same day every year. And every day there seems to be somebody somewhere. It's like, God, hasn't Christmas come around quick? Not really. No, still 365 days since last year. Now, I wanted to jump straight into a topic today because I had this idea. Holidays, that's all gone. We're back into the scheme of working and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to jump straight into sensory healthy school holidays.
Oh.
Because I remember when my boys were a lot younger, we had 3 children in school. Okay, they were home educated later, but I remember the 6 weeks in particular, and we've spoken on this briefly, is you start the 6 weeks holiday and you want your child back. But they're in school system of, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, and I can't do this. And we're at home saying, do what you like. It's the holidays. There are no rules, kind of. And it takes about 5 weeks to get your children back to being able to be happy and relaxed to do what they want to do before they're then going back off to school. So it was that bit that inspired me.
Right.
So sensory, healthy school holidays, or perhaps just breaks from school, weekends. How do we do better at maximizing those times, whether we choose to home educate, whether we choose to use the public school system? How do we make the best use of those times for not just the children, but the whole family in terms of our sensory health?
Yeah. That brings in so many different aspects of looking at things from the individual, if you want to just concentrate on one person, or if you're looking at family dynamics. But it is starting with each individual will be different, and we need to find the similarities between the family members to get the best overall. If you're going away on a holiday as a family, you definitely want to be looking at what each child needs and what each adult needs within that. But starting off, I would start with your most complicated in a way, or complex child that struggles with the transition more than anybody else, and have a look and see, right, okay, what is their sensory thumbprint? What are the kind of activities that we need that really make them feel good and feel happy and feel well? Because that transition is really, really hard. It is a hard thing from going from so much structure and also so many people around. If you're in the school system, if you're home educated, it is different. There are still changes, but the transitions are a lot less. But coming out from school, where it is full sensory overload for many, many people, or just a lot going on that your brain has to process, to then coming down to nothing. It's a more gradual transition, or a few days grace is definitely needed and appropriate, and take the pressure off yourself as parents, as well as taking the pressure off who the children are and how they are for those first few days after that transition.
Because it is hard. I mean, it doesn't matter what your daily situation is, whether you're working in an office or you're a child in a school or you're a truck driver. When you finish your normal schedule, it is really, really beneficial to completely radically change your daily output, your daily schedule, because that's the whole point of a holiday, a rest day break, is not to do exactly what you've done. Don't want a busman's holiday, to use that phrase, but actually it is important to do something different. And of course, the different thing is it can be tiring.
Yeah. And having those first few days of transition, if you can, it's really nice to take hands off, unless you know that somebody really needs routine. But it's very interesting to try and do the reset. If you've got a short holiday, you won't be able to reset sleep times. I wouldn't recommend trying to reset any normal food times. I would try and keep the feeding and eating and meal times at the same times. Try and keep some consistency. I think when we get to longer school holidays, then I think it's nice to have that freedom and make the most to get to find what their normality is, because schools don't actually help you to find what your best way of being is. You have to fit into their system. So it's trying to use the holidays not just for a break and to do something different, but actually work out what are your strengths? What are the things that really motivate you? What does your natural rhythm look like? What does your sensory environment look like? And make the most of those holidays to find out what life is going to be best for you leaving school at whatever age that happens to be. Or checking and resetting like it is with the new year, just resetting. What is my life looking like? Is it the best life? Am I living the best life? And if not, what can you change going into the next term, going into the next year, going into the next season, going into a new workplace? That's what holidays are really, really good for.
So you've got your weekends and you've got your 1 week breaks where really you're not fully rested. You're just taking a pause from your daily work. I know that in the past, when we had a 2 week holiday away, which we've only done, I think, 3 times in 30 years, that is absolutely massively different from a break, a weekend, a 4-day weekend, or a week. 2 weeks away, there is a level of relaxation that you can achieve over that, because it takes about a week to come down. For I would say for most people, normal people, it's about a week to actually unwind from your job in order to rest, which is why a week of holiday, whilst very beneficial, actually a 2 week holiday can be even better. But if you're talking about like a 6 or 7 or so weeks holiday, you can accomplish a lot more, I guess, of coming down from the regimented routine, whatever your situation is. I mean, we're talking about school holidays, but it could be from an office or what have you. But actually, you've got like weeks to come down and weeks to build back up again, so you're fully rested and fully ready again.
And it takes a lot when stress has built up in the system, and people do question teachers' holidays and teachers' pay, but I think teachers need that just as much as the students. They really do, because everybody is shattered at the end of term. Because of the structures, because of the environment, because of the way at the moment we tend to run schools. And they have to be so full on. So it is just as demanding for the teachers and the adults in that environment as it is for the children. It's very effective for certain things, but it is full on, and it's not so great for the brain in other ways. So yeah, having that time to find the real you. So much of life is about what is the real you. And that is so foundational to sensory health, because we start from the basics upwards to work out the sights, the smells, the movements, the feel, the touch, the foods, all of the things that feed into that very baseline of feeling calm, content, coordinated, confident, organized, and from there you can build whatever skills you want on top. But it's vitally important and such a powerful time to be able to use that. If you can use holidays when you may not be able to change school, you may not yet be able to change work, but they are crucial times to pay attention to how you function best in that holiday season.
Also, I'm pro teachers, and the reason why I am is because when you see a teacher, you think, well, if they're only working from 9 to 3, hey, you don't need 6 weeks. You really, really don't. Only teachers don't work 9 till 3. They're probably there at 7 o'clock in the morning till probably 8 o'clock at night, come home, have dinner whilst working probably 14, 16 hours a day, maybe conservatively. I don't think I've ever met any teachers who just do 9 to 5. I don't even know if is that even humanly possible, 8 till 4. But the thing is, I've seen so many teachers who they hit their holiday and then they stop because they're tired, and then they're ill and they're sick. So physically, they have been working at a particular pace that, in a sense, maybe I should ask Richard this bit, but in a sense, they're kind of protected from illness because they're so busy. They ain't got time to be sick. And as soon as they slow down, they are ill. And I've known so many teachers, you can spot the teachers. They're the ones with a cold on the second week of July. It's like, oh, they're just about to finish work. And then they finish and they're ill.
Yeah. It is a remarkable thing. It'd be really interesting to get other people's, perceptions on that. But also because in my work, I'm potentially on screen at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I can work late. I just flow with work life and integration and sports and holidays and saunas and all the rest of it in between. So I have very much of a flow during the day. But the number of emails that I get at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning or later on at night, it's just like, oh, that's really interesting. That although technically they only work so many hours and during school hours, there's a lot who are so committed, and also they have to. I mean, many are now standing up for their rights and their working hours and things like that, and that's in their court. But that I am communicating with, a lot of people outside of typical working hours. I don't have typical working hours, so I can work whenever I choose to, but they, they are working above and beyond.
Interesting. We've got into teachers, which fits, I suppose. Now, your background, you've got some French parentage. And I remember going to France in the, early 90s on a school trip and thinking, why are these teachers going home in the middle of the day when we're in a French school? And it's, well, if they're not teaching, they're not paid, they go home. And I thought, well, that's interesting because in the UK, if you're not teaching, great, you're still working, just go and sit over there and look after that class while you're on your break. I know that happens because, like you say, teachers are overly committed. Perhaps some need to be committed in a sense. But I think that we do need to protect teachers from what they're doing because they're doing a really, really thankless job most of the time. But I remember thinking, well, that's really clever. Why, like the teachers are allowed to go home? They have to be there for their lessons, but or they can go home. And I think, well, that's good. Split shifts, they're not bad. Nothing wrong with a split shift. Restaurant staff have been doing split shifts for ages. We do it here quite frequently. Nathan on the breakfast show, he's taken his break later. He'll be up early, work till 10, 11, 12, have a nap, have a sort of siesta kind of, and carry on the rest of the day. Nothing wrong with that. But the problem is when we do that and we don't have the breaks in the middle and we're working from 6 till 10 p.m., that's less good.
Yeah. And I think that the more I try and working in schools, going back to the school thing, is that we really need to protect the teacher's sensory health because it is as noisy all the time for them, just as much as it is the children. So we need the quiet times more than anything. I think that's the most exhausting thing for me when I go into schools. It's the noise. It's the constant noise that there is no switch off. There is no switch off from that, or very, very little. And that's really not how we were designed. And that's why it's so exhausting. And you can understand when people come home, even when they live in cities. I mean, cities are, again, that constant bustle, which is a different auditory experience than living out in nature. And that's the extra stresses that we bring into our lives when we move into cities, because auditory wise, it is so full on. And there's a lot less physical activity to help counteract that as you make it out. If you're walking or if you're working in a farm, you've got that lovely balance with physical activity, a calmer auditory experience, and the visual environment is much more natural, much more how our brains originally were designed to function.
And I've now written a topic for another day for us to talk about. The thing is, if I've been in a staff room a few times. I'm not education. I'm not a teacher. I have worked in schools a few times here and there, different reasons. But staff rooms, everyone I've ever been into is basically silent, which would make sense because it becomes the oasis of the day. Okay, usually smelling of cheap coffee, but that's my experience. But actually, it is a silent place. But it's a place of solace.
That'd be very interesting. Very happy for people to write in or to comment on this one, what their experiences are like as school staff rooms.
It's like if you work in shops. I worked in retail many years ago. You never have a break. I know what the law states, and I can tell you today, people probably are not listening to the law either, because if your customer comes back, you want to serve them. That's just the way it was. I was working at a time when you're supposed to take a lunch break. It's very important. And your customer comes in, and especially if you're getting commission, you're not handing it to somebody else and carrying on with munching your sandwich. You're going to dump it and go and run and help someone because you want the commission. So it's all very well to have the law, but then there's reality. And the law and reality don't necessarily mesh as they could. Let's say it that way. But coming back to the holidays thing, I mean, I'm saying essentially healthy school holidays. My brain immediately goes to children, young people, students. But actually, the thing you said about teachers is interesting because it's the noise, but the children don't get a relief from the noise. So if the staff rooms that I've seen are very silent, and they usually are, or the offices, or where the photocopy is, that's usually like, part of the noise of the copier. That's it.
Yeah.
But then the children don't get any break because I've been into a few lunchtime areas. I can promise you it's not quiet.
It's worse. So you have the classroom environment and there's always stuff happening. It's very rare. I mean, depending, maybe secondary school, it's quieter if teachers talking, but there's always stuff going on. Primary schools are a lot more busy, auditory wise. And when the breaks come, goodness me, it ramps up hugely because people are generally running around or moving around. And when you move, you stimulate the vestibular system, which stimulates which stimulates vocalizations. So like the same way that roller coasters and playground equipment and fairground equipment, they're noisy places because physically we are moving, which stimulates us to talk and to make noises. So yeah, I mean, primary schools in particular, you get even more auditory input. There is very, very little break from sounds.
I think you and I should start designing schools. It's never really occurred to me about sensory healthy stuff for children.
Oh, I tell you, like I was having a conversation today, because one of the big things was going into the schools, and one of the conversations today, another OT was asking me my advice on something, and I said, look, we need to get the swings into the classrooms, and she looked at me in complete disbelief that this would happen, and I'm saying, no, but it is happening over here. We are starting to see it. The teachers are asking that they recognize that we need this kind of support within our school system. And so, yeah, we've got a long way to go, but there are some things that are changing, and I will keep, beating that drum for sure, because we need it. If we want children to thrive, if we want them to be the best that they can be, and it doesn't matter if they've got a diagnosis, a neurodivergence and anything, having different movement experiences within a classroom will stop the disruptions within the classroom and will help the students so much more attend, behave, and be successful, which is what schools are designed for.
I remember at school when we would have PE, we'd have all these different lessons. And then sort of 15 years later, as teachers are put under more intense pressure, especially head teachers, right, you've got to squish more into the school day, and they're trying to squeeze out some of the stuff and thinking, well, PE can go. I remember the conversation. There was like uproar, and the head teachers were basically saying, we don't care. We can't have PE. We haven't got time for it because we've got to do all these extra things. That's not necessary. As important as it might be, it's not necessary to the curriculum. So there was a big debate. I don't know if any schools actually did get rid of PE entirely. There's all we can save money. We can get more classroom learning. But I'm just thinking about like the classic Victorian model of a school where the children are sitting upright at the little desk. They never make a peep. I mean, that's about as bad a learning experience as you can possibly have. The silence might be good in the library, possibly, but actually having to be forced still isn't actually helpful for you. But that's why at primary schools they go mad, like a madness when they get let out because they're finally allowed to move again. But the thing is that we've said this a lot. There's a disconnect between young people, children, and adults, and there's not that many difference between us. We don't have, as an adult, a much greater attention span. What we have is the ability to stay silent, which isn't necessarily a positive thing. But I remember things like sermons. Oh, well, adults can cope with 40 minutes. No, they can't. I've been sat through a 5-minute sermon thinking, I'm going to die soon because it's so bad. And I've been through a 2-hour sermon and thought, wow, that felt like 2 minutes, because the ability to deliver is really critical. But I don't feel like adults have that greater attention span to a child, and I don't think adults have got a greater sensory healthy awareness than a child. I mean, we might be a bit more matured, yeah, sure, but actually children need to run around just like adults should need to run around.
Yeah, or at least move or have the flexibility to do whatever. And we've really not been able to relax into adulthood because most of us have been trained. I mean, it's so much is training. It's training of a child, and therefore you think this is the way to be. And it's only for those for whom the training doesn't work, or that they've had that their systems really have not been able to cope with the way that we think society should go. That it's it's bringing to light how we need to do things differently. And if you give those who are obviously struggling what they need, if you give the permission to those who may look as though they don't need it, give them the opportunity to try it, and all of a sudden people can relax into who they really are and are then able to lie down or to rock or to move around or to have things in their ears. And it is fascinating that if we allow a little bit more flexibility for everybody, just quite how we will see the adults change because they are allowed to now, rather than having been trained to behave a certain way.
Which, coming back to the sensory healthy school holidays, the idea of the sort of the gentle waves. Have you ever seen the film Surf's Up? It's a cartoon about surfing, but it's quite funny.
Okay.
There's a brilliant bit, and it comes through, but there's this wonderful moment right at the end of the film. It's one of my favorite films, but there's the mature surfer and there's the young surfer who's finally got that you can't fight the waves.
Right.
You have to go with, if you fight it, they're going to win. The sea's bigger. And there's this brilliant bit, long strokes, smooth strokes through the water, because if you're going to fight it, you're just going to lose and you're going to wear yourself out. I just think that right there, that surfing mentality, you can't fight the water. Yeah, it's bigger than you, hence long smoke. It's all like chill out. And the reason for the chilled outness is actually really important. When you're actually moving with the waves, you can do stuff. If you're fighting the waves, you lose. If you fight your sensory health, if you fight, I'm going to rest. Well, teachers discover every single holiday without any kind of learning time, it seems. Teachers need to go back to school. That's what they need. Some more education on how to not get ill in the holidays. But if we just stop and it's rough and it's abrupt and it's harsh, well, it's no wonder it's going to hurt and we're going to get ill.
Interesting, that whole transition through it. But I just think the fact that you force yourself, and people do, they force themselves to do whatever they know that they need to do and that they're being paid to do. And then their own bodies suffer in the process. And then they go.
Siestas. That's what we need. I remember seeing a game when I was in France, because it was quite hot. We're in the south of France. And I remember watching these younger children being put down to sleep in a classroom. And I'm thinking, what is this? Why are they going to sleep? Sure, they should be working hard. And someone said, but it's really hot and they're very little. So they need to sleep because they can't, there's no point. They're falling asleep. So let's put them to sleep properly. Yes. And actually that's okay. I wonder if we can get we could bring in nap time for offices. It's good. Richard Scott, the good doctor, said napping is good for us. It's almost a good physical discipline. When he was a GP full time, he'd have a nap in the middle of the day, very specifically sitting up no more than 20 minutes. Otherwise, you're going to get groggy and tired. Good. Actually, it's beneficial. It resets and refreshes. If your phone's not working on your computer, what's the first advice you do when you ring the helpline? Have you turned it off and on again? It's not some clever magic trick. It's giving your computer the chance, or your phone, to restart, to refresh, to clear some of the rubbish. So I think sensory healthy napping, that's what we need to do.
Yes. And one of the other thing that was coming was that this child in school was being given a he was wandering around the corridors because they felt they needed a movement break. Now that wasn't like the movement break. He needed so much more intensity. He was getting a brain break, but actually he was a bright child and he could have really coped. So this was just part of the conversations again that I was having today, that just having someone outside of the classroom does not mean that is a good sensory healthy break. We have to find out what it is. For him, he needed a lot more intensity. He needed to be doing like handstands outside the class and cartwheels down the corridor and things like that. But yeah, so it's finding, if we have breaks or naps or whatever it is. Naps are different because I suppose that is sleep and that is recharging and rebooting, full stop. But there are other things that we can do to help people through and get through the day as well as possible.
We should design schools, you and I. That's the next thing. We can do truck cabs and we can do schools next. We'll fix the school system. We can fix it. Not a problem. But unless we take a look at the thing that we're doing, that we have to do, that we've done, that we've changed because that's how it was, and we've got to do it this way, unless someone can come in from the outside and say, well, why are you doing that? What a waste of time that is. But it's a solution to a problem that we then have to solve, that creates a problem that we have to solve. But you have to look at it from the outside to recognize, well, that's stupid. That doesn't work. But if you're in the midst of it, you're just trying to tread water and not drown, which is probably where most teachers are most of the time, which is probably why so many are leaving the profession. And
that's where we need the holidays, going back to sensory healthy holidays, because it helps you, it gives you a different perspective. I mean, we do get institutionalized. All of us get institutionalized, whether it be at church or school or the office or wherever. We all develop ways that we think Yeah, it's always been like this, or I like this bit, I like that regularity, I like this is the way that we do things. We naturally, as humanity, flow into that kind of thing, and we look for that. But that's where holidays can give that sense of like stepping back, if they're allowed. The problem is with schools, you have to follow the structure is set, but it will still give you a chance to think about what are the little tweaks that you can do going into the next term. What are the little things that could make a big difference for you as the teacher, or for them as the student and as the child?
Cool. Sensory healthy school holidays. And Arnold Jackson and Andy B will be designing schools at some point, probably not very soon, but we could do.
And everybody out there is thinking, oh, who do they think they are? But we know certain things. We know some things, and there are certain things that would be so good in new schools, and for sure. And the rest of it will be other people.
See, I reckon we could problem solve a lot of stuff away if we just actually design something. Because if the British school system was the only one, why do the Finnish not wear uniforms and perform so massively higher than we do? Well, there's got to be something in that somewhere. The way that they operate their schools is totally radically different. But this can't be the only one system that's good and brilliant, mostly because we're at the bottom of the league tables in the world. So I think it's time that we actually looked at education. How can we do this better for the child? There's a radical thought.
There you go.
The future of the child. Right. Anne, thank you. If you want to touch base with us or Anne, you can email us or just go to the website, pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ, and you can contact with Anne Laure Jackson. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.